Dubs fans have been waiting for that August 6th date. Will Lauri Markkanen be a Golden State Warrior? New reports are out, and it says it's highly, highly unlikely. On today's Locked On Dub.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen of every day. We are free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts and streaming on YouTube. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up right now, and thank you for joining us today. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Kylan Mills is out on assignment. At this point, I've been a regular on the show. Charlie Walter with you, formerly of 95.7 The Game and KPIX in San Francisco, where I covered the Warriors title run in 2022. Good show today. Doesn't matter that it's solo. When we have topics to talk about, it's easy to run through heads on. Lauri Markkanen, staying put? Maybe. Reports are saying potentially 100%. We're diving into that. Apparently, he really likes Utah. What's the backup plan? Could it be Brandon Ingram? Could it be someone from the Portland Trailblazers? Jeremy Grant? We'll get into that. If not, they're going to need Andrew Wiggins to have a big-time bounce-back year. Why this is a legacy season for two-way Wigs and USA. They have a rematch with South Sudan on Wednesday after that exhibition thriller that they had with South Sudan. We will preview that. But let's start with the massive news. It's the Lauri Markkanen sweepstakes. We had heard that the Golden State Warriors were in the driver's seat, that they held the cards, and that they could get a trade done if they were willing to potentially part with Brandon Podziemski. First trade offer the Warriors made. It was Moses Moody and it was draft picks for Lauri Markkanen. The Jazz said, no way. The Jazz then rebutted with one of the most asinine trade requests you will ever hear. We want all your draft picks. We want to swap with all your good draft picks. We want Brandon Podziemski. We want Moses Moody. And hey, we like that Jonathan Kuminga guy too. Give him to us as well. Danny said, let me fleece you. And the Warriors said, Danny, get the hell out of here. We're not making that trade. But apparently it didn't matter all along because Lauri Markkanen, per the reports, is very happy in Utah and has no intentions of going anywhere. This on the drive on ESPN 700 in Salt Lake City. The Athletic's Tony Jones revealed that the most likely scenario is that Markkanen signs a contract extension with the Jazz after he becomes eligible on August 6th because he does not have a desire to be traded from Utah, saying, quote, I would expect him to sign August 7th or after August 6th. Now, why is this so massive? Because if Lauri doesn't want to be traded and he signs that extension on the 7th, what happens is he's ineligible to be traded for 6 months until next season's trade deadline if he signs that deal on August 6th. That would be on February 6th. He'd be able to sign or to be traded. If he signs on August 7th or later, the Jazz would be restricted from trading him until the 2025 offseason. The quotes are now saying that we are almost 100% trending towards Lauri signing on August 7th, end quote. Lauri is really taken to Utah. His family's taken to Utah. Obviously, the Jazz can trade him between now and August 6th, and Lauri knows that. But Lauri has forged a really close relationship with head coach Will Hardy, and Will Hardy has really found a way to unlock his career in a manner that hasn't been accomplished anywhere else before. Lauri really recognizes that, understands that, appreciates that, and wants to be a part of this rebuild that the Jazz have that now involves potentially winning the lottery and securing Cooper Flagg, who should be next year's #1 draft pick. So we were waiting. We were sitting, waiting, wishing. Some were sitting, waiting, and hoping that the Warriors go nowhere near Lauri Markkanen just because of the price tag that it would entail. Others were hoping that maybe Markkanen signed the extension on the 6th. The Warriors kind of played the cards, saw what was out there, and then come February 6th, made a move for Lauri then. But if this is the case, and he is in fact 100% trending towards signing on August 7th, then you can kiss it goodbye. The deal is done. Lauri Markkanen is 1,000% off the table. Kylan Mills is shedding a tear somewhere because the Warriors do not have their 7-footer. They do not have someone that knocks down 40% from deep, that averages 25 points a game, that is an all-star, that is trending upwards, and that could be maybe not the piece that gets them over the top, but the best chance in free agency or in the trade market you would imagine that the Warriors could bring in and win a title in the next couple of years with Steph Curry's remaining contract. And it looks like that is not going to happen. So the Warriors do not have a number 2 scorer, at least on paper as of now. Many are hoping that Jonathan Kuminga can step into that role, that at just the age of 21, he has finally put all the pieces together in an offseason where he's really worked on his shooting and some of his control and just consistency, that maybe you don't need Lauri Markkanen because somewhere, someone on this bench is going to be the Warriors' number 2 scorer. But as of right now, it doesn't look like they have one. They lose Klay Thompson, who is a pivotal member of last year's team, at least on the box score. I know many Warriors fans will say, well, he was just clogging up the ball at the very end of the season. Draymond even said it best. Klay was miserable. He didn't want to be here. That takes an effect on everyone and quite frankly hurts the way you play. So if that's the case, maybe less is more for the Warriors, but you would still think they need that number 2 scorer. Now, I did see someone in the comments yesterday say that the 2022 season, Warriors having a number 2 scorer is actually a myth, and that it was just an association of players all year long. I would argue that it was Jordan Poole the first half of the year, and then the second half of the year, it was a combination of Wiggs, it was a combination of Klay, and it was a combination of Jordan Poole continuing to have the best statistical season of his career. But this may be what the Warriors are rolling with. Leave it in the comments. Are you okay with the Warriors entering this next season with 0 size? I mean, Trayce Jackson-Davis is your tallest player on the team. Is he proven to the point where you trust him being your tower down low? Probably not. I do like Trayce Jackson-Davis, though. I think he's nice for where he was picked in the draft. All relative. I don't, know if he's ever going to be big time. But USA select team playing against the Anthony Davises and the Bam Adebayos, and maybe he saw his game against theirs and realizes that there's not a big difference between him and them. Now that's a stretch. That's me putting on the rose-colored glasses, trying to sugarcoat it as best as I can. Trayce Jackson-Davis is solid. Will he be that much greater than solid? It's tough to say. I like Podziemski. I really do. But is he going to be enough to get the Warriors over the top with an aging core and Andrew Wiggins coming off the worst season of his career? I don't know about that, but leave it in the comments. Are you okay with Lacob and company entering next season with this being the roster? If this is indeed the roster. But where we stand today with Lauri now apparently out, who else do you bring in? Who else do you bring in? We'll talk about that coming up. Are you confident with where the Warriors stand? Andrew Wiggins, what is your legacy going to be? We're talking about that coming up here on Locked On Warriors. All right, I am a big fan of Major League Baseball. Actually, have not been getting to any games recently just because all the teams that I like, and yes, I do like multiple teams, are not very good whatsoever, but still, I always have fond memories going down to the ballpark. The 9-beer, 9-dog, 9-inning challenge? Come on now. Who doesn't love that? I can go quality start. I can go about 7 innings with the 7 dogs, 7 innings, and the 7 brewskis. But the Gametime app, enough rambling, is the best because you show up to the park, you have the app downloaded, and the closer you get to first pitch, the cheaper the tickets are. How about that? Last-minute deals. You could save up to 60% buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Toggling the feature, you can get panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee or Gametime will credit you up to 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, Andrew Wiggins, what is your legacy going to be? He's been anything but a failure in his career. A former Rookie of the Year, an All-Star, NBA champion, and probably the runner-up for finals MVP in that series against the Boston Celtics. That is a damn good resume for most. But if it's the best we get from Andrew Wiggins in his career, fair or not, it'll go down as a head-scratcher that makes you wonder how a player entering his prime that's been healthy, that is still physically intact and still physically elite, could drop to irrelevancy so quickly, because last year he was not good. And you can't take anything away from Andrew Wiggins. He's an all-star for the rest of his life. Now, I did kind of forget this. A big reason he was an all-star is because he received the third most fan votes in the entire Western Conference in 2022 because of the whole Bam Bam situation. Remember, the K-pop community got behind the Warriors, voted for Andrew Wiggins, and he had the third most votes, had many more than Paul George. But in terms of the players voting and the media voting, I think Draymond Green got more votes than him. So do what you want with that information. But overall, Wiggins has been more than solid for the Warriors. Outstanding in 22-23 when he was playing. Now there's this mirage, I guess you could say, this false information that's out there that Andrew Wiggins has had back-to-back bad years. He was very good in 22-23. Effective when he was playing, though. The extended absence sticks around in Warriors fans' brains more than those contributions than he provided on the court that season. But with the talent, with all the talent that he has, we still should want and we should still expect more from Andrew Wiggins, because with great talent comes great expectations. Half the number one picks in the last 20 years haven't done what Wiggins has done. Players like Markelle Fultz, Anthony Bennett, Greg Oden, Kwame Brown, Bargnani, they don't hold a candle to Andrew Wiggins. So the word bust will never be associated with Wiggins. He's an all-star. Nobody can take that away from Andrew. But this is a season to me, and granted, asterisk all-star for some due to Bam Bam. But you can't take that away from him. On the basketball reference page for the rest of his life, it's going to say Andrew Wiggins, Rookie of the Year, NBA champion, at least one-time all-star. But this is the season to me where Andrew Wiggins needs to lock in and think, what is my legacy going to be as a basketball player when it's all said and done? Because fair or not, this is someone that came into the NBA with pre-draft comparisons to Hall of Famer Vince Carter. Must-watch mixtape. Now, I'd love to hear in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube, your Mount Rushmore of high school basketball mixtapes. And if you know, you know. You're watching Ball is Life. I think Akil Carr has to be up there. I mean, Durant, LeBron, obviously. But to me, it was like Akil Carr, John Wall, Zion Williamson. And he's been good, don't get me wrong. But it's just, again, it goes back to with great talent comes great expectations, and he has not lived up to those expectations. Basically, his entire pre-draft scout was positive. Great quickness, explosiveness, length, lateral movements. That combined projected him to be a great defender, which is what he did at Kansas, and he's been a good defender in the NBA, at least after Minnesota. Since he's gotten to the Warriors, he's been a lot better, and it's because of the will, not the skill. He's always had the skill. As an offensive rebounder, he can keep possessions alive that very few others can due to his second jump and tremendous leaping ability. This is all his scouting page before he went to the NBA. Unselfish, will look for teammates, and it is an evolving playmaker. A spin move that can become a major weapon in isolation, plus has shown a floater that over time could be a weapon. When being closely defended, his step-back jumper has been a move that is impossible to guard, plays with a quiet intensity, and while some question his lack of emotion, he also never gets too down. He's even keel. And you hear that, and you're like, oh my God, Andrew Wiggins is going to be the greatest player of all time. Fast forward, what? That was 2014. Fast forward a decade. He's had a good career. However, he's still young, and his career and stock is at the lowest point it's ever been right now. And he's still young, not even 30 years of age. Why? The biggest issue that he had in this pre-draft scout is something that I think pops up in today's day and age. Does Wiggins have the mental makeup to maximize his immense physical gifts? While some scouts are extremely high on him, there are just as many that question his focus and his passion for the game. Often plays too uptight on offense, which can get him off his base and lead to turnovers. Needs to work on moving without the ball, as he has a reputation of sometimes standing and ball watching. Defensive awareness is something he must work on, along with always running out to his spot and not relying completely on his length and athleticism to challenge a player. He was taken in front of his collegiate teammate, Joel Embiid. That's how good this guy was. I mean, number one pick. Not had quite the career that Joel Embiid has had. Been in the league since 2014, only 29 years of age, as I mentioned, but his 13 points per game last year for Wiggins, the lowest of his career, lower than his rookie season where he averaged 16. Wiggins got paid at 27 years of age after the best run of his career, the best season of his career, got paid as someone entering his prime, yet was not paid like a superstar. I mean, he's making half of what Dame Lillard is making annually, is making slightly less per year than Chris Middleton, who I would never classify as one of the elites of the NBA. Really good basketball player, but not one of the elites. He probably wouldn't be the best player on over half of the teams, if not all, in the association. And Wiggins also is making less than what Jordan Poole is making right now. Seemed like an underpay at the time, did he not? 27 years old, locked down Tatum in the NBA Finals, averaged 17 on 39% from 3 in 22, played more than 70 games that season. And that's one thing about Wiggins. Has played in more than 70 games every season but one. Has been very durable. But Wiggins got paid to be one of the better players in the league. And this is a defining year to prove that he was worth some of that money. Because as of now, it's money the Warriors seemingly want to get rid of. It's not seemingly. The reports have been out there that they want to get rid of this contract. And of course they want to get rid of this contract. How could you not? Draymond Green did say on Jeff Teague's podcast, he's expecting Wiggins to have a huge bounce back season. Do not sleep on Andrew Wiggins this season. But what we got last year was, in my opinion, inconsistency more than ability. I do believe that he still has the talent in there. Physically, Andrew Wiggins is not cooked. But mentally, emotionally, can he still play the game at a high level? That's what we're going to have to see. Because heading into his 30s here soon, it's hard to envision him bouncing back to all-star level if he does not pick it up this season. So what's your legacy going to be, Andrew Wiggins? You tell me with the way you play this season. Because as of right now, it's been somewhat of a disappointing career. And it's not fair because he's been excellent, as I mentioned. But with great expectations comes a great responsibility. I think I mixed that up. I'm mixing up Batman and my own quote now. Anyways, see what Jerry Stackhouse can work up with him. Can he, get some motivation out of Wiggins and get him back to the player that he was? Forget years ago, just the season before last in 22-23 when he was healthy. He was great. Another player the Warriors could look at is Jeremy Grant. He's on the Portland Trail Blazers, is almost guaranteed to be traded per some sources. And why he becomes interesting for the Warriors is because Andrew Wiggins, $84.6 million, automatically makes him a trade candidate to match Grant's contract. So could Grant be the contingency plan if Lauri Markkanen is indeed off the table? Could it be Brandon Ingram, who's going to be needing a lot of money to extend with a certain team? I like the Jeremy Grant trade potentially. I mean, if they go for Wiggins and a draft pick, but we'll see if the Warriors decide to work anything up there or if they are happy with the team that they have. The only thing that's unquestioned is that Andrew Wiggins is going to have a much better season if the Warriors want to do anything this year. And I mean anything. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up, USA, South Sudan on Wednesday. I'm 2-0 on my bets thus far in this show. Maybe I'll give you another. That's coming up. United States and South Sudan. The line is out. And the U.S., after winning the first game 101-100, what was that, 11 days ago on July 20th, they needed LeBron James to hit a game-winning layup in the final seconds to overcome what at one point, I believe, was a 17-point deficit in the first half. The States won it, but South Sudan is getting a lot of points in this game on Wednesday. It's at Wednesday, 1 p.m. in France. USA favored by 29.5 points. That's fishy. That's such a fishy spread. I think you lay the points. You take USA minus 29.5 because it makes no sense. Obviously, there's a big talent discrepancy. USA has quite a bit more talent than South Sudan, who's relying on Carlik Jones, good player at Louisville. Actually, shout out Cincinnati, Carlik. They're relying on Wenyen Gabriel, and they're relying on Mariel Shayok, who I believe, I have to look that one up. Stand by. I believe Iowa State. Mariel Shayok. Sounds way too familiar. Yes, the Iowa State Cyclones. He's a good player at Iowa State. Don't sleep on this South Sudan team. Played at Virginia 3 years. And then his senior year at Iowa State averaged 18 points per game in the Big 12. But the South Sudan team will meet the United States again. South Sudan beat Puerto Rico 90-79 for their first Olympic win ever just the other day. They are coached by Luol Deng and Royal Ivy. If you remember Royal Ivy, he's the head coach and was a player on Rick Barnes' Texas Longhorns. I was going to say Tennessee, but he was at Texas at the time. Royal Ivy was on that team with TJ Ford that went to the Final Four, lost to Carmelo Anthony when Carmelo and Syracuse ended up beating Kansas in the championship. You don't stump the Chuck when it comes to the collegiate basketball knowledge, the worthless info that I could give some people. But Group C, it figures to run through the United States and Serbia, but this is a chance for South Sudan to make some noise and sneak in to the knockout round. Wednesday, July 31st. Should be extremely entertaining. Shayok had 25 points and 6 threes in that first matchup, so you got to watch out for him. Wenyen Gabriel, I mentioned, who played for the Lakers, also on the team. With the United States, though, Jason Tatum is now confirmed by Steve Kerr to be 100% playing in this matchup after being a DNP in their last contest against Serbia. Steve Kerr actually said that he had to talk with Jason Tatum before the game and told him, hey, you're probably not going to play. And he didn't play. Even though it was a blowout, didn't give Tatum even a chance to run out there and stretch out his legs, to burn off some of the French baguettes. Nothing. Didn't get a single second. To which Celtics fans and even a former player of Steve Kerr, Matt Barnes, had them losing their minds. Because Jason Tatum, an extremely good basketball player, and it doesn't make a ton of sense that he didn't find a way into the rotation somehow, some way. And it's a micronism of what's going on in the Bay Area. How many people have been complaining Moses Moody not getting minutes? Jonathan Kuminga needs more than 30 minutes per game. You got to give him consistent run. He has not been getting that, and a lot of the blame has been falling on Steve Kerr. But you can't blame Steve Kerr for being, 6-0 this Olympic season and winning their first game and still having everything in front of them to take home the gold for the 5th consecutive Olympics. But again, that game's at 1 p.m. should be very fun. USA minus 29.5. That's a lot of points. I'm not putting this with my 2-0 baseball record that we have during some of the picks during our endorsements of this show. We're not doing that. 29.5. Hit the over. Just cheer for points or something. Anyways, thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There's no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA. Available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Excited to see what Kevin Durant has in store for Team USA. 23 points in his last game. What will he do against South Sudan? And Steph Curry, will he have his big breakout game of the Olympics thus far where he goes out for 7-8 threes? Would love to see it. For the last time, that game is at 1 p.m. Pacific time from France. Appreciate everyone for being with us. Locked On Warriors. Like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a positive review for those of you listening on the audio podcast. Peace.